Voices of change, loud and clear, breaking barriers, dispelling fear, making a difference in every sector, transforming our nation one step at a time, at a time. Energetic, resilient, dedicated and fearless, committed to progress, will never stray. In the quest for development, we'll always sway. Feel the rhythm, feel the beat. In unity, our courage complete. For the love of country, our anthem of change. Together we stand, together we build. We're the voices of change, loud and clear. Breaking barriers, dispelling fear. Making a difference in every sector. Transforming our nation, one step at a time. Energetic at a time.
To our listening and our viewing public here on Facebook, on our radio stations, and a special good morning to the ministry, the staff of the Ministry of Labour, Public Service Reform, Social Partnership, Entrepreneurship and Small Business Development, and the entire public service by extension. I also want to send a special good morning to the ministers of that ministry, Honorable Miriam Blanchard and Honorable Darren Pinard, who I'm sure are listening this morning. So we want to send a special good morning to everyone here. Welcome to another episode of Voices of Change. And I also want to send a special good morning to our Permanent Secretary, P.S. Joseph, who I am absolutely sure is listening with us today. I'm Vanilla Ole, and I am filling in for P.S. Joseph this morning. I'm really happy to be back in studios for Voice of Change. We have a very entertaining or interesting, rather, discussion this morning on the regularization of work permits, residence permits, which I think is very important right now. We have two important guests in studio with you. I will allow them to introduce themselves in a few moments. These people are directly involved in this regularization process, so they're more than equipped to discuss with you this topic and give regular information that we would need. So stay with us while we get into this very interesting discussion. We'll have some key questions, bring out the facts in relation to regularization of these permits. So again, good morning, and I would like to allow our guests to officially introduce themselves so we can get this program started.
Okay, let me say good morning, Miss Ole, and good morning to the listeners of DBS, especially listeners, the regular listeners of Voices of Change. My name is Kelvin Paquette. I am the Acting Labour Commissioner at the Labour Division, Ministry of Labour. And this morning I'm looking forward to a wonderful dialogue where we aim to provide as much information as possible on regularization of non-nationals or immigrants, and also provide as much information in order to assist them. So for those who are in the process of applying for, let's say, work permits, residence permits, citizenship, we are hoping that that information will help them, as we look forward to providing that service to them so that they become regularized on island. So, yes, I'm looking forward to this dialogue. Thank you for having me.
You're most welcome.
Okay, good morning. Pleasant good morning to all listeners of the DBS radio and also viewers online on our Facebook page. My name is Neon Charles, and I'm currently serving as the Officer for the Regularization of Foreign Nationals within the Labour Division under the Ministry of Labour, Public Service Reform, Social Partnership, Entrepreneurship and Small Business Development.
So thank you to our two guests, Mr. Paquette and Mr. Charles. So let's really get into it. Let's have a little bit discussion around you. Who are you? What is your role within the ministry? And what exactly does the ministry, or rather the Division of Labour, do?
Okay, well, like I said earlier, I am the Acting Labour Commissioner, so that comes with a range of responsibilities, which includes the overseeing of labor relations, processing of work permits applications, citizenships, and also in terms of labor relations, which we're not really there to talk about today, but it has to do with industrial relations and health and safety. So those are other areas that labor plays a pivotal role in Dominica, and I, as the commissioner, I oversee the entire operation of the division um, on the that is with the assistance of the deputy labor commissioner, who supervises the technical department of the division, which comprises of the labor officers, and also you have the senior executive officer who supervises the administrative staff.
Well, Miss Ole, I must say that I'm a man with many hats. I am an entrepreneur, farmer, business owner, but in my professional capacity, I am the officer with the responsibility for the regularization of foreign nationals. I have been with the Labor Division for the past 3 years with my responsibility for the accepting and processing of work permit, residence permit, permanent residencies, citizenship, and CSME or skills, CARICOM skills certificate.
Okay, great. So we can see these people are knowledgeable on the topic that we're going to discuss this morning. Whilst we get into it, I think you mentioned some of them already, the regularizations. You mentioned the work permit, citizenship. Just for context, because someone may not understand the difference between residency, between citizenship, permanent residency, work permit. Just for context, what do these entail?
Oh. Okay, so work permit allows non-national to legally or grant them the permission to work in Dominica, to work and to reside in Dominica. The residence permit also allows the non-nationals to reside in Dominica, so basically for people who are retired, or you just want to accompany your husband or wife who's working on island, they can apply for residence permit. Also, their children can apply for residence permit as well. Permanent residency is a non-national who resided in Dominica for the amount of 5 years, receiving 5 or more resident or work permit. And a citizen, when someone applies for citizenship, they have to basically be residing here for between 7 years, more than 7 years, for a non-national. Someone who is married to a Dominican can apply after 3 years. And they are also for CARICOM and CARICOM and Commonwealth State, they require 5 years of work or residence permit, or one permanent residency.
One permanent residency. Okay. I think you kind of touched on who exactly can apply for the work permit. But in terms of individual applications, can anyone apply for the work permit, or it has to be the national or the non-national, I should say, specifically requesting the work permit on their own behalf, or someone has to request on their behalf?
So any non-citizen who intends to work in Dominica is required to have a work permit. Normally the employers are the one who initiate the start or to request for the work permit. So the employers will come to the office, or they will get the application forms for the applicant.
And what is the process?
So the process in obtaining a work permit is that, as I indicated, that the employer or the applicant himself or herself can come to the labor division, get an application form, and fill out the application. But in initial to them coming to the office, they must be on island. The applicant must be in Dominica, so they'll get an application form which has the checklist attached and the medical attached to that checklist. So on the checklist, you require to, 1, fill out the application. 2, you have to get a medical report done. You need a clean police record. You require 2 testimonials for replicable people. 1 which can be from your former employer, from wherever you were. A clean police record from your place of origin or where you resided for the past 12 months, 6 to 12 months. You also require, depending on the type of employment it is, let's say if you are employed with as a domestic worker or agricultural worker, you do not require any advertisement to be made or publicized in a newspaper or any news articles. But what we required for farmers is that we require a letter from the Ministry of Agriculture. We also require a copy of the lease agreement if they have the leasing or the land titled if they are the owners of the land. Also, we require produce seller's license from the applicant. We also for other than domestic workers and agricultural workers, any other industry has to apply or make a submission through the newspaper articles, which basically give the local persons the equal rights to apply for that same job. So we're not really just having persons apply for any job. You must be advertising in the newspaper, which gives the local people equal rights to say yes, I can apply for that job as well. And once their requirement is met, then they can afford you that position or that job. We also require a stamp from extension of stay from immigration, which indicates to us that yes, that person is on island, and yes, they have authorized that individual to stay at a longer period, so that they could facilitate the application, the work or residency application.
So the application process seems to be very detailed. There
Yes.
seems to be a lot of documents and prerequisites that's required for this. But is there any due diligence that occurs with the application of all of these documents?
Of
Is there
course.
any? Yeah.
Of course. So due diligence must be done. We are very strict on border control and border security. So we in fact do due diligence on each and every applicant that application which is submitted through the labor division. So if we may go into details as to the due diligence process, we normally when the application is brought to our office, we vet the application, we contact the employer themselves, so that sometimes we ask them to come into the office to have a short interview with them, and also we contact the sponsors of that applicant. Normally we have our labor officers who, depending on what it is, we send them out to the various workplaces to ensure that the workplace is fit and they are indeed an office space where they intend to employ that individual. So basically it's a lot of internal matters that has to go on through the labor division when it comes to the due diligence process. Sometimes files are sent to the special branch department for further due diligence. So that's how in-depth we go with our due diligence at the labor division.
Yes, and just to add, solely to what Neon said, due diligence is very important because especially when you're dealing with an application for the first time, which is called a first-time application, because you do not have as much information as you would be able to compile from country, from Dominica. So in a situation like that, we would seek the intervention or also the assistance of our stakeholders, like the Dominica Police Force. So sometimes they may have to extend their investigation to Interpol, where information can be gathered on that particular individual, because the background is important. You never know what the person has done. We are not saying that everybody is treated as a criminal, but you just need to make sure that whoever you are going to allow, in your country and engage them in employment and even residence, you have to ensure that they are okay and they are in order. All checks on their backgrounds, even the documents that they present, you have to make sure it is authentic through verification processes, and the employment assessment. And even in addition to, we engage in our labor officers to do further investigation. For example, go on site, ensure that the operation, is the employer or the sponsor is operating in accordance with the laws. Another important thing is that we also, while we are doing this, we also want to make sure that the immigrant is treated fairly. And I'm saying that to say, for example, persons may want to employ someone, and then they may decide to pay them less than the minimum wage, which is wrong. So
Right.
so while you are employed, engaged in employment in Dominica, you are protected by the Protection of Employment Act, the labor legislations. So all these things we do before we can proceed with an application.
So the entire process seems to be very, very detailed
Yes.
to ensure that the non-nationals who receive work permits within our country, the proper processes are followed.
Right.
But with all of that, is there a situation where it's possible, for whatever reason, a work permit is provided or granted rather to a non-national and it's revoked? Is that something that is possible, something that happens? Is there, even after this entire due diligence process?
Yes, that can happen, because if after you have information, okay, that may lead to, let's say, falsified document, character. You find that the person have a criminal history after, and a lot of factors. The minister may choose to revoke the permit.
So that's something that that means to me that this process is even more detailed and even more protective. But from all of this, I'm getting that this is a process for first-time applicants for work permits.
Yes.
What is the situation for someone who already has attained the work permit and maybe it's revoked, or rather not revoked, but rather it's expired? Is it the same process? Do I go to get the same documents? Is there something different?
So it's a less tedious process for a renewal applicant. So basically, the applicant will come to the office, or the employer will come to the office and submit their application. It's the same application form. What they require is they will require the application form. They will require a clean police record from Dominica, a copy of their previous work permit, a letter of employment, of course, and a valid passport up to 6 months. But the due diligence process is still done. So we will still contact the employer to find out, hey, is XYZ still employed with you? And then the employer will say yes, or the employer will say no, and lead him off. So then we'll go back to the applicant and say, hey, we can't accept this application because your employer said that you're no longer employed with them. So the process is a recurring process. So we still maintain our due diligence. We still contact the employers. We still contact the sponsors, and we still contact everybody involved within that person who's receiving the application, the work permit.
So it's not anything that's automatic.
No.
All right. We've spoken about the process and how detailed it is, but we've not touched on any fees. Is there an application fee, or is it free?
Yeah. So for CARICOM for CARICOM member state, it's $250 government fees, and also there for non-CARICOM members there is a fee of $800 for the work permit.
Okay, and these have to be paid upon application.
Upon vetting of the application, we issue a notice of clearance, which indicates that we have vetted the application and the application is okay or fit to move forward. Then we issue that the applicant or the employer that notice of clearance, and they take it to the Treasury Department, where they'll make the payment of that fee. We also have an online payment option through epayments.dominica.gov.dm, which the applicant can pay once we have vetted the application. So we make things easy for a lot of even nationals and non-nationals.
And also we have to there is, in addition to the processing fee, which is non-refundable, there is, so it's whether the application is approved or denied, you have to pay that fee, as Mr. Charles just
So it's
explained.
standard.
Okay? Yeah. Now, in addition to that, when the work permit is approved, then you have to collect. Then you would have to go. You would be given a letter from the Division of Labor, where you would be asked to collect your work permit at the Inland Revenue, and then there you pay
Professional license.
your professional license fee based on your category of work. Yeah. So that fee is only paid at the Inland Revenue after your work permit has been approved.
Okay, and this
So
entire
those are the two
process-
phases. Yes.
So
That
there
is
is an application fee that you pay, and then there is a processing fee,
fee. No.
No,
there-
professional
a
license.
professional license fee.
Yes.
Okay. So I've gone through the process and I have received my work permits. Can I utilize as an ID, as some form of ID? Because I think some people may. I know. I think that's a valid question.
Yes.
Can I utilize that as a form of ID?
No, unfortunately.
Unfortunately.
It is not a substitute for immigration documents or a national ID. It is only used for facilitating you as a worker in Dominica. And there are times persons have been asked for their work permit when they have traveled and they return into Dominica. So it can facilitate traveling, but it should not be used as a document to travel.
I think we need to repeat that. So I mean, so our listening and viewing public can understand that it is not
Okay. So
an
it's
ID.
so it's not a document that you can use for traveling, because if you are coming to Dominica and you're not and you fall under the category where you would require a visa, then you would have to apply for that through the Ministry of National Security, who are now responsible for the processing of visas. So visa would enable you to come in. However, work permit is different. It is only for you to, it is issued to you for you to work and reside in Dominica. That's it. To work and reside.
I think
Not
it's
to
very
travel.
clear. Not to travel.
Yes.
I think that's very clear.
I try to put it more in layman's, terms, so the persons can understand. So it's not a traveling document. You cannot use it to travel.
I think that's very clear.
Yes.
In terms of issuing the work permits, is there an expiration date? How long is it issued for? Is it a year? Is it 6 months? Is it 5 years? Is it indefinite?
So typically, a work permit is issued for 1 year.
1 year.
Yes, and then in renewal, it is renewed after annually. So
Through
it's
the same application process.
through the same application process.
And if someone, for example, has been employed in Dominica, let's say 3-4 years, prior to applying for the work permit, what does this mean?
Okay, so
Are there repercussions? Is this okay?
yeah, so what we will do, we would investigate both the employer and the worker, and penalties may apply. However, the worker may be considered to regularize depending on the circumstances or the situation that they are in.
So they will be forced to regularize.
And then, so basically, if we catch them working for the past 3 years, what we will do, we'll ask them to pay for the past 3 years that they have been employed, illegally employed.
Illegally employed.
Yes.
And all that would be unearthed through the due diligence process.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So, Ms. Oli, I would just like to appeal to everyone, persons who are on island right now and have not been regularized. Please come into the Labor Division and get regularized. We will, our officers like Mr. Charles is there to assist you, to provide you with all the information that you may need. To don't be afraid. Don't say because I have been there for 3 years or 2 years I don't want to come because I'm afraid they will send me back. No, we are there to help you to regularize yourself. You've been there. We will assist you. And the appeal, we send it out there. So if anyone, for whatever reason, feel that they may be deported, that is not the case.
So I think that's very important to have
Yes,
noticed so that they
definitely.
understand
Yes.
that, coming to the Labor Division, we're open, we're willing,
Willing
we will
to-
sit and discuss with you.
Yes.
Yeah. Have there been any situations where, we're going through an application process and there is a checklist, as you mentioned. There may be something on the checklist that I may not have. I may not have an employment letter, or I may not have a testimonial or any of these documents that are required. What happens in a situation if a falsified document is presented?
Once we realize that the document that you're submitting is indeed false or falsified, we definitely get the police involved.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we'll reach out to the police, we'll explain the matter to them, and then you'll be picked up and questioned by the authorities.
So, so there is something set in place in
Yes.
the event
Yes, we
of
have-
something like this
We
happening.
have a very good relationship with the immigration department and the police.
With regards
CID,
to all of these
with regards to
regularizations.
this, yes.
So in a situation like this, two things: a possibility, legal action will be taken against you, or you may be deported.
So I think we need to repeat that.
Okay.
There are certain points that I think that we need to
Yes.
repeat so that
So-
everyone understands the
if
gravity of it.
someone is caught with falsifying information as it relates to the applying for work permit, some of the penalties that are involved would be legal action
Mhm.
or deportation.
Deportation.
Yes.
I think we've
definitely.
definitely deportation. We've touched a bit on work permit for quite some time. But as you mentioned earlier, there are other regularizations. There's I'll let you inform us of the other types of regularizations. I mean, we know about the work permit, but I'm pretty sure there are others.
Okay. So the others would entail residence permit. Residence permit is for persons who reside in Dominica for more than 6 months, and that would be, like Neon said earlier, that could include retirees, students, and family members of citizens. You know, those persons and persons who are not interested in engaging in employment, in work. So you have this option where you could apply for a residence permit, where you can reside, but you cannot engage in employment.
So just to add to what the Labour Commissioner said, persons, we have a lot of ongoing projects in Dominica. We have
Yeah.
the international airport, we have the marina, we have the cable car. We have a lot of projects, large-scale projects going on. So a lot of persons may be coming in, employees may be coming in to facilitate these works. So the residence permit can accommodate their spouses,
Right.
their spouse, their children, who wants to basically come to Dominica to reside with them for that period of time that they will be engaged in this type of employment through the cable car, the airport, and so on and so forth.
So basically, the main criteria for applying for the residence permit is if you're looking to come into our country but not seeking employment.
Correct.
And
To
it's for
enjoy
under
nature.
temporary situation.
Yes, to enjoy nature.
To enjoy nature. I agree, 100% to come to Dominica and enjoy nature. So what kind of documents are required for application of this? Is it just the proof of employment from your spouse or your parents? Is there anything else? And is there a rigid process that you have to go through to apply for residence as well, similar to the work permit?
So similar to the work permit, it is very similar. Only thing that they do not submit is that they won't be able to submit an employment letter. But they will definitely require the copy of their spouse or whoever they're with, a copy of their work permit. So we'll require a sponsor letter basically. So the sponsor will indicate that, hi, my name is X, Y, and Z. I am here in Dominica and I am accepting full responsibility for my spouse or my child or my children who will be accompanying me while on island. So they will require a sponsor letter, a bank statement. So we need to see basically that you are indeed capable of maintaining yourself and your significant other, your children. So basically we need to show proof that you are financially able and will not be a burden to the state through medical and through different social services. So that is where it is differentiated for the for the sponsor letter, bank statement, and the proof of employment of the individual.
Right.
But all the other documents are the same. So you still do the same due diligence process.
Right. I was getting to that.
Everything is basically the same as a work permit. Only thing is that we contact the sponsor
Mhm.
and ensure that they have the financial capacity to maintain themselves and the
Whoever is your
whoever,
dependent.
Yeah,
Right. And how long is this issued for?
1 year.
Oh, it's 1 year.
Yeah.
Similar as a work permit.
Yes,
It's
all
issued for 1
permits
year.
all permits are issued for 1 year and renewed after.
We
Mhm.
could sometimes discretion could be used, because for example, let's say even as it, I know we are now talking about the residence permit, but even work permit. For example, you may have an artist coming down to perform, and they may not require a work permit for a year. They may just require it for the period. So this is something sometimes discretions can be used, and a shorter period can be granted to them based on what they're coming to do. However, that does not affect the amount that is being paid for processing. The processing fee remains the same. So if the work permit is granted to you for a year, as we usually do, like Mr. Charles mentioned, or whether it's granted to you for a week, you would still pay the processing fee,
No, I mean if it's a standard
Yes.
fee, it's a standard fee.
which is standard.
It's a
Yes.
standard fee. So that's I understand. I think we all understand. It's a standard fee.
Sometimes we get those questions, Yeah.
In
So,
relation to there's a
yeah,
discount
a
or different
discount
rates
or- yes.
based on the time period
Yes.
allotted.
Yes.
Okay. So I have applied for a residence permit because my parents or my spouse or whoever is coming to Dominica to work. Are there any benefits that I gain or that I can claim as a holder of a residence permit in Dominica?
Yes, definitely. You are able, like I said, you are able to reside. Definitely, that is the main.
That's the key.
yeah,
That's the
key.
main purpose.
Yes, you have legal residency. You also get access to banking, so you could open a bank account, a housing, and also with that you after a period of 5 years, you can consider applying for your permanent residence. We will get to permanent residence. I know we have not gotten to that part there, but permanent residence is something similar to what you would call like a green card.
Okay.
In the United States. You cannot be issued a passport with it, but it allows you to reside permanently in the country.
Okay, so what happens in the event that an individual has received the residence permit, and for whatever reason, I'm a holder of a residence permit, but for whatever reason, I have to leave the country for an extended period of time with a valid residence permit? Is there any penalties for that?
No. As indicated by the Labour Commissioner previously, the document that we issue is not a travel document,
Right.
but it can facilitate your entry in and out of the country. So there wouldn't be any penalties to that as long as you have a valid work or residence permit. You can travel freely. It gives you the opportunity to enter.
For the
with
residence
little,
permit.
Little questions being asked, yes.
So what happens if I think what I'm trying to get to is if I travel with this residence permit, I own one, and I travel, it expires before I return to the country.
Mhm.
What happens in a situation like that?
Well, nothing really can happen because you are a valid holder of a valid permit, so it can facilitate your entry back to the country. When you get back to Dominica, what you have to do is to renew that document
As soon as possible.
as soon as yes.
Okay. Okay, I think that's important to just note in the event that, situations can happen. You can travel and it can, for whatever reason, and it can expire whilst you're out.
Yes.
So just to understand that when you will be able to return to the country, but you would need to apply for a new residence permit.
Also, what we'll do though, we'll investigate as to why did you stay out for such
the
a
extended
very
period
long,
of time.
for such a very long period of time. Yes, and based on the questions, based on the answers that we receive, we may or may not consider the renewing of the application.
Also, it's not going to be automatic. It's still
No,
going to go for
it's
the
still
due diligence
due diligence
process.
process.
Yeah.
The diligence process is a continuous thing. It
Right.
must be done every step of the way.
Very important to note. We mentioned the work permit, the residence permit, and I think Mr. Packet, you alluded to the
Yes.
permanent residence.
Yes.
Differentiates
So the yes.
permanent residence permits.
Yes. So permanent residence, like I mentioned earlier, it's equivalent to what is called a green card in the United States.
Yes.
So with a permanent residence, you do not have to, you would not require work permits or residence permits. It allows you to reside and work permanently. The only difference is that you are not able to, you are not a citizen, or you will not be, you are not a citizen of Dominica, but your entitlement become a little more flexible than when you are operating on a work permit or residence permit. So that you would qualify for after you have been on island legally for at least 5 years.
With
5
a
years.
permit.
Yeah, well, legally meaning with
with-
a permit
yes.
or with a work permit or a residence permit. Yes.
5 years.
So after 5 years, you could apply for that status, permanent residence.
And the documentation that is required for this is the same as the permanent residence or the work permits, or are there more documents that you require? I mean, if you're saying that you're a permanent residence, I mean, I think that's something that's more solid, right?
Yeah.
So there's definitely more documents to be submitted than a residency. So you submit the application form. Medical must be done. Medical report has to be done for a medical professional. You also have to get the 2 testimonials from reputable people, lawyers, doctors, nurses, teachers, religious workers, and the list goes on. We also need a bank statement. We need to see the amount of, well, not really to know your business, but we need to find out if you are able to maintain yourself as a permanent resident. We also require clean police record. We also require a copy of your birth certificate, marriage certificate. We also require copies of your previous work or residence permits. So we need to know that you have been on island legally regularized for the past at least 5 years. We also require any other supporting documents that you can submit, like if you own business in Dominica, are you an entrepreneur, are you doing any type of business, if you are the owner of any land in Dominica, also if you have any children accompanying you on island.
You mentioned business and land. So are you saying that if I attain permanent residence in Dominica, I am entitled, or not entitled to, but I am able to own a business, to purchase land, to build a home, and
Yes.
reside here permanently
Yes, you can.
based on that?
Yes, you can.
So
And even a normal resident can apply for a work permit to be self-employed. You know. But temporary residency cannot apply for work permit because you're not entitled to work.
right,
But
right, because
you-
you're
all
here
the other-
accompanying someone.
Yes. So all the other amenities that citizen can or should be able to, you should be able to get that same equal rights as a citizen,
As a permanent resident.
as a permanent resident. But the only thing that you'll not have a Dominican passport.
That is a differentiation.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I was about to ask, what is the difference in having permanent residence and being a citizen?
Citizen,
Because it seems very similar.
Citizen is when you're granted the passport.
Right.
Yeah. So
Right.
so it's when you take your oath and you become a citizen of the Commonwealth of Dominica. So this is big. you know? Yes. So you may be able to enjoy a lot of what persons who have been granted citizenship, but you would not be able to have that document with your your photo on it and everything.
Saying that I'm a Dominican.
Dominican, yes, yeah.
Right.
Yes.
So I think that's important for
Yes.
us to know the differentiation between those two because
Yes.
they can easily be
Yes.
confused.
Yes.
Um,
And also after you have been granted permanent residence,
mhm.
you can consider applying for citizenship after 2 years. Because
years.
really, yes, you would have to be on island for 7 years to apply. And sometimes it strengthens your application, seeing that you've been granted permanent residence. And, so it kind of strengthens, shows that you've been on island and you've been here after 2 years working and, contributing. So, and you've been regularized. So that can help in the possibility, because citizenship is not, it's not how to say it, mandatory, or it's not automatic.
Mhm.
It can be granted, it can be approved, it can be disapproved. However, but that can strengthen the possibility of you getting citizenship, but it doesn't guarantee you will.
That is what, right.
Yes.
Great.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that it's not automatic. Are there situations where someone has received the residence permit and are considering or has applied for citizenship and the residence permit has been revoked? Are there situations where this could happen? Is it if I've committed a crime? What reasons could there be?
So, any documents or any permits can be revoked by the order of the minister. So the minister has the power to revoke any permits, whether it be work residence or permanent residence, depending on once we realize that through the due diligence that you falsified any documents or you have any criminal records, or sometimes it could have been something of the past. Back in your own country, your country of origin, once the minister sees it fit to revoke, he can indeed do so.
So just to add to what Neon said, three of the areas that we have seen, where these matters, this has occurred is, like Neon said, if someone has been convicted of a crime, also if they have left Dominica for an extended period of time, and for other fraudulent reasons. So those are the three main reasons, why we have seen and those situations and consideration of persons application being permanent resident being revoked.
And that's across the board.
Yes.
Across the board.
Yes.
So you mentioned that you could apply for your citizenship after you've had your permanent residence for a period of time. Are there any other ways that you could attain citizenship? I mean, we know birthright, that's one,
Yes.
and we know for your residence permits. Are there any other paths to attaining citizenship in Dominica?
Yes, there's the registration process.
Mhm.
Someone who is married to a Dominican, you must be married to a Dominican for 3 years. You must have at least 3 residence or work permit in order to apply for citizenship by marriage. Also, there is the option of citizenship through descent, through direct descent. So whether your father or mother was a Dominican, and it's funny, yeah.
Mhm.
It's funny, because there's different processes through the citizenship by descent. So if you were born prior to our independence, before 1978, your father has to be born of Dominica or Commonwealth descent, because we were under the British law system at that time. So in order to obtain citizenship through descent, if you were born prior to our independence, we only take the rights of the father and not the mother. But when we got independent, we recognize the rights of the beautiful ladies. So recognize the rights of the mother. So we changed it a bit and said that whether your mother or father is Dominican, then you can apply for citizenship through descent.
Yes.
That was a great change.
It isn't recognize women.
Yes. And while we are on citizenship by descent, another important point is that it is not granted to second generation.
Yes.
That's important. So it's only granted to
First generation.
first generation,
Direct descendants.
direct. So your grandchildren cannot qualify for citizenship by descent because you were born in Dominica. That is important.
Yes.
Yeah. So for now, it's only for
Only for first line.
first time,
First
firstborn.
generation.
First generation, as you
Yes,
mentioned.
Yes.
And it is also important to note that even if that you are applying for citizenship for descent, for your father or mother, it is also important to note that we still do that due diligence process.
I think I
It's
think
something. It's something that's important to note because a lot of people come and say, "Hey, but my mom is a Dominican, my father is a Dominican, and why is it taking so long to get back to get my citizenship certificate? Why is it taking so long? Why, you know?" So just it is important to note. I just want the listening public to know that the due diligence process continues. It still has to be done. It's still it's a must. Hence the reason why it might take some time to get back that certificate.
But I think we need to understand as well, is it, maybe I should ask that question. I am a daughter of a born Dominican. Yes, I know you must go through the due diligence process and it may take some time to get everything done properly and I have to submit my application documents. But is it automatic? Because I mentioned, you said that it's for the first generation. Can I concretely say that I am entitled to receive that citizenship?
Yes.
Even if it takes an extended period of time, I'm entitled and I must receive it.
Yes, because you are not applying for citizenship. You are registering. So the law clearly states that, you know, anytime you are born and your father or your mother, based on the period, are Dominican by birth, then you are a citizen. So what you're doing really is registering. Just like you're born in Dominica and you go to the registry, you know, your parents go to the registry to register you. So you are a citizen, and what we do is facilitate the process of registering you. So it's not like you're applying for it. You have it already.
So that's okay. So we get it now.
Yes.
We get it now. So in a situation like that, your citizenship cannot be revoked because you're registering you're entitled to it.
Yes.
But are there any other situations where you could have attained citizenship and it could be revoked?
For naturalization process.
Okay, so what does that entail?
Once you have any criminal record, let's say you committed any heinous crimes, and so it can be revoked through the minister. The minister has the power, the authority given to him by law to revoke any citizenship application.
Okay, so that's clear. You did mention that it's only mandatory for first generation. So what happens in a situation if a first generation is applying for citizenship and this person has children? Since it's not automatic, what is the process or what happens to these children?
Unfortunately, the children will have to go through the naturalization process. So basically, they will have to reside here for about, depending on where they were born, they will have to reside here for about 5 to 7 years. So as I indicated previously, for CARICOM member states, CARICOM and Commonwealth member states is a period of 5 years by law. And for non-CARICOM and Commonwealth, non-Commonwealth state is 7 years. But the minister has the powers to waive such residential requirements. It is important to note that. So the minister, let's say for example, someone comes to Dominica and has granted service to the state, whether through teaching, whether through medical services like nurses, doctor, and they're just here for 3 years, the minister has the power to waive the residential requirement of 5 years or 7 years and grant that person their citizenship for naturalization.
And that's based on, their contribution to the country if they're
Yes,
deemed.
yes.
Right.
Yes.
So
That-
let me just add to what Neon saying. So you can see the difference between citizenship by naturalization and also citizenship by descent. So like we said, citizenship by descent is just
A registration process.
But persons may be asking we're using a word naturalization, what is that? So that is basically someone who has been in Dominica, okay, for a period of 7 years, and they want to become a citizen of Dominica. So now they can apply. So that is totally different. They can apply for citizenship. The application may be, considered approved, or it may be denied. So that is totally different from the citizenship by descent, which you already, acquire through your parents. So I just wanted to just point out the difference between those two.
And dual citizenship.
Yeah.
If I am applying for citizenship, or registering for my citizenship because my parents were Dominican, but I was not born here. I was born in the States. Would I be required to give up my U.S. citizenship or citizenship from another country in order to register for my citizenship in Dominica?
Dominica accepts or facilitates dual citizenship, so we're not against anyone who has dual citizenship. What you may be concerned about though is your country of origin, your birthplace. Is it okay for you to have a dual citizenship? But for us in Dominica, we facilitate these documents. It's not a problem to have dual citizenship. Our law permits dual citizenship.
Great. So I just looked at the time. We've been discussing the regularizations for an hour. I know. It's gone by really quickly. I had noticed. So just for us to have some closing remarks, so we can close off our discussion on the regularization this morning.
I just want to say it was a pleasure being on the show, engaging and providing the information. I am hoping that we can do a little more of this kind of interaction with the listening public. The information we provide, I hope that it will assist someone. And if you're considering applying for any of the services that the Labor Division provides, we at the Labor Division, our staff are trained and are always willing to assist and provide you with the information. So if you wish to get yourself regularized, you feel free to call the Labor Division. Our telephone number is 266 3553, or you can email us. Our email address is labordivision@dominica.gov.dm.
I'd just like to encourage that listen public, the employers, ensure that your employees are regularized. Ask questions, don't be afraid. Ask them, hey, do you have a work permit? And if they say no, then ask them, how can we facilitate you in order to get in a work permit? We just want to encourage these the employers especially, because they also have the rights as any citizen of Dominica. So you cannot really just pay them as you want. You cannot just pay them as you want. You must follow the labor standards, the minimum wage for their service. Yeah.
Okay, great. So I really want to take the time to thank our guests this morning, Mr. Packett and Mr. Charles, for taking the time to sit with us and discuss the regularization. I think the information is needed. A lot of people may not know the differences between these permits, the work permit, the residence permit, the permanent residence, citizenship, what does it entail, and especially the application process. So I really want to take the time to thank you for sitting with us today. And I want to send a special, again, a special hi to P.S. Joseph, who I know for sure is listening, very diligent and dedicated permanent secretary. I was happy to sit in for her this morning. Have a great morning, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. This is Voice of Change. Have a blessed morning.
Now they clear, breaking barriers, dispelling fear, making a difference in every sector, transforming our nation one step at a time, Energetic, resilience, dedicated.